Good morning, friends. Thank you for coming back to class today. We are going to be doing a little bit of science, and we're going to be talking about something that all of you already know a lot about. We are going to be talking about water. Why is water important? Where can it be found? What do we use it for? All of these things. So before we get to start our reading and discussing about all of those important things that water does for us, what do you already know about water? Is there anything that you can think of that you already know? We used water in our classroom a few times. We use it, well, where do we see water in the classroom? Let's think about that. Every time we go to the bathroom and we wash our hands after, right? That's where we see water in our classroom. We've also done some experiments with water. Where else do we see water in our school? Maybe if you're thirsty, you ask to go to the water fountain, right? More water. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to be reading another book that I wrote. And this one is called, what's it called? Water. And earlier this week, when we were doing our language arts and our reading, we talked about the differences between fiction and nonfiction. Just looking at our front cover, what kind of book do you think that this is? Is it a fiction book or a nonfiction book? It is nonfiction. How can you tell? One big clue is this picture right here, right? It isn't one that somebody drew. It's not an illustration. It's an actual photograph. So that's a big hint that it's nonfiction. I talked about how we're going to learn things today. We're going to use this book to help us learn. It is about real stuff. And that is what nonfiction is all about. I'm sure when we start reading, you'll be able to see some other clues that'll help you remember what nonfiction is and how it's different from a fictional story. Okay. Water. What is this? We talked about this in the beginning of the week. This is our table of contents, and today we're going to read this whole book. But remember, if we were just doing some research and needed to find something out very specific about water, you could come over here and take a look at all of these different parts, and it would tell you exactly where to go in the book to find out information about that thing. But we're going to read the whole book today. Up here we have our heading, and we also see labels on our pages. Why is water important? Water is an important resource. This means people use it for many different things. We talked about resources. I'm making a connection right now, right? We talked about resources when we were talking about how we can protect the earth because they have a lot of natural resources. So how do people use water? They use it for food. There's a picture of people in boats right here using water to travel. And they can also use it for shelter. Now this water looks a little bit different than the other water, doesn't it? We'll talk about that a little bit later. Where can we find water? We find water in many different places. We can find water in streams, rivers, lakes, underground wells, and oceans. I like looking at the picture of the underground well. Has anyone ever seen a well before? I think that there's some stories that we've read, maybe some nursery rhymes. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water, right? They went all the way up to the top to get water out of a well. A well is just a place that has water deep down inside to help us get water out from underneath the earth's surface. Phases of water. The temperature can make water look and feel different. We see water in different phases. So think back to that first picture when people were using the water for shelter. Would you be able to live in water when it looks like this? Could you live in this? No, I don't think so. So instead, people can use water for different things depending on the temperature. So let's take a look. When it's all the way up in the red, that means it's hot or it's really warm. It can be a gas. So if you're ever cooking and maybe you're boiling water, there's water in a pot on the stove, and then you can see gas coming up, that's water. Moving a little bit further down, so like room temperature, how you feel right now, it is a liquid. So just like this water bottle, the water moves around a lot. And then what happens when it gets really, really cold? What is this a picture of? Ice cubes, right? So it gets really hard and cold, and that can make it look and feel different. So water isn't just ice, but it's also snow, and that's what those people were using to make their houses with. All right, in these pages, you can probably help me read it. Liquid. Look at the water. It is a liquid. Solid. Look at the ice. It is a solid. That's when it's really cold, right? Gas. Look at the steam. It is a gas. So that's the one I was talking about before, right? If you ever see someone cooking at home. In this last page, it says, try it. Conduct an investigation. Now that you know where water comes from and how it can look, can you predict where water will flow? If you pour water at the top of a slide, what happens? Where does it go? And we did an activity like that earlier when we were still in our classroom. Remember, we scrunched up paper and we made big mountains with it, and then we sprayed the top of our mountain with the water, and it was pretending like it was rain, right? So let's think about that again. What happened to the water? So some good stuff for you to think about. Hopefully after reading that book, you're able to understand a little bit more about where water comes from, all the different things that people use it for, and now you have an experiment to do. So make sure you ask whoever's taking care of you if you're able to do that experiment. We don't want to go running around and just putting water on things, right? That probably wouldn't be a good idea. Okay, so what you can do now is you can go to the website, check out the choice board, and pick one activity to do to practice what we just learned here. And then you can join me on Zoom where I might be doing that same water experiment.